Hi everyone, this is IELTS Writing Lab. So many students say the same thing. My writing score just won't go up. My mind goes blank when I see the question. I have no idea what to write. Your reading and listening scores are okay, but writing seems stuck around band 6. Sounds familiar? In this lesson, I'm going to show you a clear, practical way to solve this problem. If you just watch passively, you'll forget most of it after the video. So today, we'll learn and practice together. As you watch, I want you to follow along and actually do the steps with me. Here's what this video covers. In the first part of this video, we'll look at why your writing score doesn't really go up in Task 2, and what's actually happening when you don't know what to write. Then, in the second part, I'll show you a practical planning tool called the Task 2 Structure Grid, and we'll use it step by step on a real exam-style question. If you'd prefer to skip straight to the hands-on explanation of the Task 2 Structure Grid, you can jump to about 6 minutes 20 seconds in this video. But if you want to really understand why this method works, I recommend watching from the beginning and practicing with me. Before we get started, if you'd like to keep getting structure-focused IELTS writing lessons like this, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me continue creating content for you. Is the problem really no ideas? Many students say things like this. I struggle with writing Task 2 because I don't have any ideas. Nothing comes to mind when I read the question. But IELTS teachers often say, plan your ideas first. You must organize your ideas before you start writing. So students say they have no ideas, and teachers say, organize your ideas. Which one is true? Before we answer that, let's look at the Task 2 topics for a moment. Online education, environmental issues, public transport, technology, income inequality, city versus countryside. These are topics you've heard many times before. In fact, you've probably seen them in news articles, YouTube videos, or school discussions many times. So in most cases, the real problem isn't, I have no ideas. Let's say the question is about the advantages and disadvantages of online education. Suddenly, lots of ideas come to mind. Access and convenience. Lower cost. Quality differences. The digital divide. Differences between age groups. Differences between urban and rural areas. They're all things you already know about. So you may feel like you have no ideas at all. But in fact, for most students, the situation is that you have too many ideas and don't know what to keep and what to throw away. Your head is full, but you don't have a filter yet. That's why IELTS teachers keep repeating things like this. You must plan your ideas first. You need a clear outline before you start writing. That advice is correct in theory, but there's a big problem. If you already knew how to organize ideas clearly, you probably wouldn't be stuck at band 6. When you try to plan, you often get stuck right away. You feel pressured by the 40-minute time limit. You're not sure how to group or select your ideas. You don't know which ideas are good enough for Task 2. Teachers usually write beautiful model answers based on material they've prepared for hours. They've practiced the same topics many times. They know automatically which ideas fit Task 2 well. Students, on the other hand, haven't really practiced the thinking process. They haven't learned a simple, repeatable method for sorting and narrowing down ideas. Many teachers tell students to plan your ideas first, but they don't give a concrete, practical tool a student can use to design a clear structure quickly within the 40-minute time limit. As a result, even when students attend the same class, they can still end up with very different Task 2 band scores. This is largely because their structure planning skills improve at very different rates. That's why I like to think of writing ability as a simple equation. Writing ability is structure planning ability multiplied by language ability. Most students focus only on the language side. They try to build more vocabulary, use more complex grammar, and add more advanced linking phrases. But if your structure planning ability is weak, your overall score won't increase much, even if your English is already quite good. The problem is that structure planning skills usually take a long time to develop, unless you have a simple tool that speeds up this learning process. With the right tool, an average student can build solid, functional structure planning skills in a much shorter time. That tool is what I call the Task 2 structure grid. I'll explain how this tool works, but rather than just watching, it's much easier to understand if you draw it with me. Take a moment to pause the video and prepare a pen and a sheet of paper. Now let's draw the grid together. Draw one big rectangle, then divide it with a vertical line and a horizontal line, so you have 4 boxes. On the left side, write individual and society, and leave some space in brackets next to each word. This simple grid will be your tool for turning messy ideas into a clear Task 2 structure. In one sentence. The Task 2 structure grid is a 2x2 planning tool that organizes your ideas into 4 boxes, based on the subject and the perspective. On the left side, we decide the subject. In other words, who we are talking about in this essay. For example, students or society as a whole. On the top, we write the perspective. For example, advantages and disadvantages, problem and solution, short-term versus long-term impact. This automatically creates 4 boxes. You then move the ideas from your head into these 4 boxes as short notes or keywords, not full sentences. Later, you choose just 2 of the 4 boxes and turn them into body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. That is how the grid helps you narrow down ideas and design a clear, logical structure. You might be wondering, why these 2 axes? Why individual versus society and advantages versus disadvantages? This design is actually based on a well-known principle in business and consulting called MICE. MICE stands for mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. In simple terms, MICE means divide your ideas into groups that don't overlap, but together cover the whole picture. The left axis shows the subject, who we are talking about. The top axis shows the perspective, what we are asked to do. These 2 axes are chosen so that the 4 boxes do not overlap at all, and together they cover most of the important angles you might need for a Task 2 essay. Once the axes are fixed, something powerful happens. You no longer have to search everywhere for ideas. You only need to ask, what can I say in these 4 boxes? This makes your thinking much more focused. This MICE way of thinking is not just for IELTS. It's used in consulting presentations, company strategy documents, university essays and reports, and professional writing in many fields. So, when you practice with this grid, you're not just training for IELTS, you're building a reusable thinking skill. Now, let's see how this actually works on a real Task 2 question. We'll go step by step. First, we're going to look at a real Task 2 question and set up the grid. Then, we'll fill all 4 boxes with ideas and keywords. After that, we'll choose 2 boxes to become body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. Next, we'll turn those 2 boxes into a clear outline, including sentence 3 and sentence 4 of the introduction. Finally, we'll write the full essay together. The first step in creating the Task 2 structure grid is choosing the subject. Let me explain it using the question as an example. Online education is becoming more and more popular. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of this trend. This is a very common type of question in IELTS. Many students start writing immediately. That's exactly what we're not going to do today. Instead, we'll plan first using the grid. As we said, the grid has 2 main parts. On the left, we ask, who are we talking about? In other words, the subject. On the top, we ask, what is the question asking us to do? In other words, the perspective. Now, let's begin with the left side. In this essay, who are we mainly talking about? Under individual, there are many possibilities. For example, students, teachers, parents, adult learners, and so on. Depending on which subject you choose, your arguments will change. For this example, we'll focus on students as our individual subject. So, for individual, write students in brackets. Next, let's look at society. Here, society could mean schools, local communities, government, or even the whole country. For Task 2, it's usually better to think broadly. So for society, we'll write schools and government in brackets. The left side of the grid is now complete. At the individual level, we're focusing on students. At the societal level, we're looking at schools and government. From now on, our thinking will stay within these 2 subjects. Your idea universe is now much smaller and easier to manage. Now let's move on to the top of the grid, the perspective. Our question says, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the trend of online education. So at the top, write advantages and disadvantages. So far, your grid is set up. On the left, you can see students under individual, and schools and government under society. At the top, you have advantages and disadvantages. We now have 4 boxes to fill. Let's do that together. First, look at box 1, the top left box. To make it easier to generate ideas, turn it into a simple question. From a student's point of view, what are the advantages of online education? For now, you only need to write keywords, not full sentences. For example, you might write things like flexible schedule, study anywhere, lower cost, or more choice of courses. Nothing needs to be perfect yet. Let's move to the top right box. From a student's point of view, what are the disadvantages of online education? Here are a few possible keywords. Lack of discipline, distractions at home, feelings of isolation, and difficulty asking questions. Don't write full sentences. Just short, clear notes. In the bottom left box, we shift to schools and government. From the perspective of schools and government, what are the advantages of online education? Possible keywords include better access for rural students, opportunities for adult learners, and lower costs for providing some courses. Finally, the bottom right box. From the perspective of schools and government, What are the disadvantages? Possible keywords could be quality control issues, the digital divide, and fewer opportunities to develop face-to-face social skills. At first, this may feel a little awkward. But with continued practice, the time needed to complete the grid becomes much shorter. In most cases, 5 to 10 minutes is enough to fill all 4 boxes. When you approach the question this way, your ideas are no longer scattered. Instead, they are clearly organized by students and society, and by advantages and disadvantages. Now we move from planning to designing the essay itself. Here's an important point. We do not use all 4 boxes in one essay. Instead, we choose just 2 boxes and turn them into body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. In this lesson, we'll keep things simple and focus only on the student perspective. Let's apply this to the question we looked at earlier. From the student perspective, we chose 2 boxes, box 1 and box 2. That means box 1 becomes body paragraph 1, and box 2 becomes body paragraph 2. And here's another key benefit. Sentence 3 in the introduction is simply a 1-sentence summary of box 1, and sentence 4 is a 1-sentence summary of box 2. So the grid doesn't just build your body paragraphs, it also helps you complete about half of your introduction. When using this grid, here are a few simple rules for beginners to keep in mind. As you become more familiar with this method, you won't need to fill in all 4 boxes every time. But at the beginning, writing everything down helps you make clearer choices. One more important tip. Don't try to do this only in your head. Write it down on paper. Once the grid is ready, writing the essay becomes much easier. From here, we'll turn our selected boxes into a full essay. We'll start by building the introduction in 4 clear sentences. The first 2 sentences are not based on the grid. You simply paraphrase the question and write your thesis statement. Here's sentence 1. The number of people studying online has increased significantly in recent years. Here's sentence 2. This essay will discuss the main advantages and disadvantages of online education for students. Sentence 3 is a 1-sentence summary of box 1. One major advantage for students is the flexibility it offers, allowing them to study at their own pace. Sentence 4 summarizes box 2 in 1 sentence. However, a key disadvantage is reduced interaction, which can negatively affect motivation and focus. Now let's build body paragraph 1. We will use box 1 and turn those ideas into full sentences. This becomes body paragraph 1. From the student perspective, this paragraph explains the main advantages of online education. Here's an example. One major advantage of online education for students is the high level of flexibility it provides. Unlike traditional classroom-based learning, online courses allow students to choose when and where they study rather than follow a fixed timetable. This is particularly valuable for learners who work part-time, have family responsibilities, or live far from educational institutions. Moreover, online programs are often more affordable and offer a wider range of subjects, enabling students to select options that match both their interests and financial situation. Next, let's build body paragraph 2. We will use box 2 and turn those ideas into full sentences. This becomes body paragraph 2. From the student perspective, this paragraph explains the main disadvantages of online education. Here's an example. However, online education can reduce interaction, which may make it harder for students to stay engaged and maintain consistent study habits. Without regular face-to-face contact with teachers and classmates, some learners feel isolated and are less likely to ask questions when they are confused. Immediate feedback can also be slower online, and even when platforms provide forums or messaging tools, these do not fully replace real-time discussion. As a result, online learners need stronger self-discipline and more structured support to remain motivated and focused. Let's complete the structure with the conclusion. In conclusion, online education offers clear benefits for students, especially flexibility, affordability, and access to a wider range of courses, but the lack of direct interaction can reduce engagement and place greater responsibility on learners. Overall, it is a valuable alternative when students receive enough guidance and develop strong independent learning skills. That is the conclusion in 2 sentences. And before we finish, here's a quick reminder of where this structure comes from. It comes directly from the 2 boxes we selected. Now let's see the benefits of the Task 2 structure grid. When you use the Task 2 structure grid consistently, 3 major things change. First, you get stuck less in the introduction. Body paragraphs 1 and 2 are already decided, so you won't waste time wondering what to write about. Second, your body paragraphs become clearer. 1 box equals 1 paragraph, and 1 clear central idea. You stop mixing different ideas all over the place. Third, time management becomes more predictable. If you spend the first 5 to 10 minutes filling the grid and choosing your 2 boxes, the rest of your time can be used just for writing and improving your sentences. Today, we used the grid with 1 perspective, advantages and disadvantages, focused on students as the main subject. In future lessons, we'll apply the same grid idea to other question types. For example, we'll use a real problem solution question and build a full plan step by step, from the grid, to a clear outline, to body paragraphs 1 and 2. And we'll do the same with an agree-disagree question, so you can see exactly how to plan your position and choose your 2 main reasons using the same grid tool. The Task 2 structure grid will also become part of an AI-powered practice system. This system will help you practice the grid with AI, analyze your structural weaknesses, and target those weak points with focused training. The goal is to raise your writing band score through focused practice. If you want to be the first to try it, check the pinned comment for updates. If you thought this is the structure I've been missing, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. More lessons are coming soon.